Parmjee Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on the first reading of the Social Security Amendment Bill, Extension of Young Persons Services and Remedial Matters. Mr. Speaker, as the last speaker on the first reading of this bill, I had the privilege of listening to all 11 speakers before me. And Mr. Speaker, what shocked me is that Labour compares people with cars. They compared our teenagers with cars. Very insensitive, Mr. Speaker. Very disconnected approach, Mr. Speaker. Coming back to the bill, Mr. Speaker, currently under the Part 5 in Section 156 to 180 of the Social Security Act, the financial support that's available to young people consists of one, there is youth payment for 16 to 17-year-olds with no children who have exceptional circumstances, and then there is youth parent payment for 16 to 18-year-olds. Mr. Speaker, this national government is working hard to reduce welfare dependency. And we know that when people fall in the trap of welfare dependency at a young age, it becomes very hard for them to come off benefit. And that's why we are interested in working on this age group. And this bill is to help the age group, this age group by extending the maximum eligibility age for youth services from 18 years to 19 years. So how it works, Mr. Speaker, is that when a person receives a youth payment, that person is automatically referred to youth service provider and is linked up to a youth coach. So the aim of this bill is to amend the Social Security Act 1964 to implement extensions to the youth services. In particular, the bill extends the youth services, existing youth services, to all beneficiaries of 19 or under years of age with children, and 18 and 19 years of beneficiaries who are considered to be at a significant risk of becoming long-term beneficiaries. So, Mr. Speaker, youth service providers, they provide support to these teenagers to help them build skills that are required to get into jobs. And we know that our youth services are giving us really great outcomes. And as per March 2015 numbers, 86.5% of youth enrolled in youth services, they were engaged in some kind of education, training, or work-based learning. And this is an increase of 10.4% compared to the same time in the last year. And in terms of numbers, Mr. Speaker, this is an increase of around 1,000 people. So it's really a great outcome, which shows that these teenagers are responding to the support and services that are available through youth service providers. So this bill is to extend these youth services to 19-year-olds. And this is to provide that support that is much needed during those years to get back into education or into employment. And Mr. Speaker, we know that the pathway to success is education and work. Welfare is there for people, those who really need it, those who are in real need. And the general expectation is that when people go on benefit, they are continuously looking for job opportunities, and as soon as they find a job, they get off benefit. But this bill is to help people, those who are at high risk of going on benefit for a long period in their life. And we know, Mr. Speaker, by extending these youth services, the cost will go up. It's estimated that the cost of this will be somewhere between $10 to $15 million. This is going to help about 4,000 teenagers on benefit, which includes 1,200 19-year-old teen parents. So, Mr. Speaker, this is, yes, the cost is going to go up, but in the long run, it's a good investment in the future. It's a good investment in our teenagers. And this is going to save taxpayers' money in the long run. As it's estimated that for every dollar that is spent on youth services, New Zealanders' long-term financial liability reduces by $2.53. And we can't have our teenagers hanging out on street corners causing social trouble or being on benefit, Mr. Speaker, and or developing mental issues because they don't know how to cope with their circumstances and they don't know how to come back on a track. So, and this is also going to help us reduce intergenerational welfare dependency, as it's a general observation that children, those who grow up in families where caregivers or parents are dependent on benefit, it's highly likely that those children will be relying on benefit when they grow up. So, Mr. Speaker, The best part of this bill is that there will be activity obligations for these teenagers, and that includes going back into education to work towards NCA level 2, taking up a budgeting course that is to help with managing their money, and they'll have to take a parenting course as well, and they'll work with their youth coach to pick a parenting course that suits their needs. And as a result, if they meet all these obligations, they receive an incentive payment. They are subject to controlled payment, so money goes into their card, and that card can be used at any approved grocery store to buy food. Rent or boarding and power bill is paid directly, and there is allowance which is handed to these people as well. So, Mr. Speaker, another great thing about this bill is that if there is any money saved by someone on their card, that money will be handed over to these teenagers once they come off that money managed period. So with in a situation where both spouses or partners are aged 19 years or under, they will be transferred to youth payment as well, and they will be receiving youth services as well. And in case of beneficiaries with children, they will be required to enroll their child or children with a primary healthcare provider so that the medical side of that is taken care of. 19-year-old spouses and partners of other main beneficiaries who have children will have activity obligations, and they will be newly entitled to receiving incentive payments. So, Mr. Speaker, these 18 and 19-year-olds, those who don't have NCA level 2, they will be assisted by these youth service providers to get into education and work towards achieving NCA level 2. And if they already have NCA level 2, then they will be provided assistance to get into jobs. And Mr. Speaker, youth service providers, their number shows that NCA level 2 achievement numbers are increasing. And we know that these youth service providers, they work like mentors with these teenagers. And this is like full-time mentoring and with providing them help with budgeting, parenting, and also learning, getting training, helping to get into workforce as well. We know that mentoring helps with social emotional development. It also helps in improvement of youth's perception for parental relationship. It can also increase their chances of getting into higher education. And these all things lead to increased self-esteem and self-confidence, and then they don't have to rely on benefit in their life, Mr. Speaker. And these findings are consistent with neuroscientific research that shows that the portion of the brain that is responsible for impulse control, analytical thinking, judgment, and future orientation gradually develops throughout early adulthood. So, Mr. Speaker, young people in their teens, they do need the structured care, support, and guidance during those years, so they can learn the skills that are required for them to get into education or get into jobs. And Mr. Speaker, generally speaking, when beneficiaries go on benefit, I don't think that they want to be on benefit for their whole life. But once they are on benefit for a period longer than they had originally thought, they start doubting their ability to become independent. And that's why this wrap-around support is needed. And Mr. Speaker, our focus is on people. Our focus is on their better future. This bill shows that we are delivering on our promises. This is a great bill, and I support the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here we go. We're up to the...
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
30 votes in favour.
Green Party.
10 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 in favour.
Māori Party.
2 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 105, the noes are 10. The motion is agreed to. The question now is, first reading.
Social Security Extension of Young Persons Services and Remedial Matters Amendment Bill, first reading.
The question now is that the Social Security Extension of Young Persons Services and Remedial Matters Amendment Bill be considered by the Social Services Committee. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on Government Order of the Day number 2.